Disclaimer, I'm on Windows. I don't use Windows, but so I've been learning it recently. So please bear with me, like the window manager is a bit funky, stuff like that. So ultimately, Dagger effectively allows you to do stuff that you would normally have to do in Docker files, but except you could do it in code, right? Jeremy was just saying around like modules, different SDKs. So somebody from the Java team, like let's say the Java community, they can build a module to do like Gradle or something, and I can just do Dagger install and then the URL to that thingy, to that module that's written in Java, and it actually generates PHP code on my side, and vice versa. I can write a PHP module, and the Java team can install it, and it's going to generate the native Java code in their project. So that's kind of why it's quite exciting to be multi-language, and be the GraphQL under the hood basically unifies it all, so it's not actually real code. These code here just generates GraphQL queries under the hood to tell it what to do inside the magical engine. But that was just wrapping up that point. Here is Laravel 12. Laravel 12 got released yesterday, I think, something like that. So I literally just grabbed the project, and I did this. Bring it across.
The only thing I'll say, Paul, to caveat is that, of course, it is real code. So that if you want to mix in, if you want to pull in libraries from that you're using, or you want to write code that isn't just, Dagger SDK, Dagger API calls, essentially, those functions, you can, of course, use that as well, mix and match, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
makes it
So
super powerful.
I basically went to the Laravel directory. I cloned the Laravel repo, and I typed this, and this is it. That's all you need, and it will Daggerize your project for you, which means it will create a Dagger directory because we told it where to go, and that made it automatically made in the source directory a Dagger module for your particular app, and it auto-generated, some stubs. I replaced that with some useful things, not just hello world stuff. And so yeah, I wanted to kind of break this down a little bit. Now, this is effectively CI 101, right? So just breaking this down a little bit, it should look like the other SDKs. We have to install. So this is like a Docker multi-stage buildy thing. So you can actually grab files from other Docker images. This is the Composer 2, which is our dependency manager, and I'm grabbing the file from there, and I'm dropping it into this current running container there. So that's nice and clean, and that's a good way to do it. And in order to, and I'm also mounted this the code from the hard drive, which is here on the left, into the container at /app. I just made that up, whatever a /app is, and I'm mounting a directory object, which is this source. You can pass in directory stuff at call time, like in a pair like Dagger function basis, but we're doing it globally here at the top in the class, so we just bring it across one time. We don't have to keep repeating ourselves over and over, and we also don't have to specify on the command line every single time, dash something equals whatever, right? So it's a kind of a convenient global thing, and this is a default path that it will mount every time. So it's the kind of the new way to do Dagger stuff. Yesterday I was making this last night, just playing around, some fresh stuff, and it was quite slow because it was mounting over things that should not be brought into the CI, right? So this is also another annotation you can add. The Java demo had the same, and you can annotate like this, right? I suppose in any PHP or Java. So if people didn't know, this is it. My IDE keeps thinking that sometimes this is a C# library because the PHP team, we copied annotation syntax from C# about 5 years ago or something. So it should look familiar. And yeah, effectively brings it. So now we have this source, right, like in the class, and we can use that. So we just mounted the code across. I changed the working directory to /app, and now I'm running Composer install, basically. Now, this is a with exec. You'll see from other SDKs that with exec has to take arrays, just like a Docker cmd command. So it's like Composer. I can't type. Anyway, like that, right? But when you've got long things like this, it gets very, very cumbersome. So we just I guess me and the rest of the PHP folks, we just created a small function here, which is this guy. Might not work 100% of the time for every single bash command. There might be edge cases, but for the most part, 99% we find that it works. So we created this little aliasy thing, so that we can, yeah, we don't have to do the resyntax all the time. We can just pass strings in. So it's kind of familiar to what people are already used to when they're writing Docker files or bash stuff. And yeah, pretty much that's it. I created this setup PHP function. I'm going to call it now, and it returns a container. So it doesn't actually do anything, but it sets up an environment so that we can down below we can do stuff with that, like run tests and whatnot. So we're not repeating ourselves. You can't really do this stuff with Docker files or YAML files, Docker Compose YAML, because or in GitHub Actions, like trying to reuse things is a nightmare. So having code is an absolute lifesaver. This is, I'll just run it here. So Dagger functions. You'll notice there's a verbosity level here, right? If you press the plus key on your keyboard, plus, the verbosity increases. So if you've not noticed that, that's amazing, because you can see in real time what you're waiting on. Why is it slow? Is it pulling an image? Is it stuck on something? So I'll run that again just so you see. So there's like level 2 doing stuff, and then bam, this is nice and quick. Dagger functions just tells me all the functions that are on my module, that are on my project, which is like these things. Don't know why it's not working. Anyway, so if I call setup env on its own, it's not going to do much. But so you see it returns a container object, which means it's not going to do anything. But that means is I can call things on top of that. So I can chain and I can do extra things. So I don't have to change the code. So for example, if I want to run another command on top of this, I wouldn't have to go into my code or change, like push on the command line in a CI system. I could do this something like this with exec equals, and then like actually type in like another command on top, which is really smart. This is why you'll start to see in the Dagger ecosystem functions that they don't return. They can return a string, which is like standard out, and you'll have to add standard out at the bottom. But to keep the base stuff flexible, it means that everything container, and then we just add standard out at the end of our command line thingy, which is basically like calling with exec or standard out. So one of the very useful reasons why we don't just make it standard out is we can do something called terminal. And now I will compile my environment. If I press the plus key a few times, you'll see it will do the composer install stuff. There it is. This is the dependency manager, right? So this is like npm and npm modules, right, or whatnot. So it works. Yay! And this is just installing stuff, and it's just doing its thing. And bam, we're actually, we're in the terminal now. Yeah. And there's all the code, and the vendor directory is there, and it made that on the fly from the code that we just wrote. This command here, right? This command here, we pulled the composer binary across, we installed the composer install, and as you can see, all of our code is actually here for our entire project. And with that in mind, that means that we can debug stuff. So if you're down, and now all of the other commands become very simple. So this is a Dagger convention, really. They call it like a base, right? Or a base environment or something. And if I want to change anything, I can just come to this one function, and I can even pass arguments into it. So set up like things like a string PHP version equals 8.4 is the default. And then I could maybe change it to like this. Something like that. And then I could call the same function again. Just come out of that. And then this time I could say equals 8.3. Completely different. So it's that flexibility between hard coding things and making it parameterized. You can call, of course, we're in code now, so we can call function. I could just maybe call this here, right? 8.3, right? Or I could make it. So this is a parameter into the main function above, but it's also, because this is a Dagger function, you can pass it from the command line. So you get a lot of flexibility in how you want to change things. So PHP version. So I could make this 8.2. And it should still run, and I've changed the entire runtime without touching code. And that's why Dagger's awesome, because you have multiple. If I press the plus key, you see it will start to download a Docker image on the internet somewhere. Anyway, I'll cancel it because it's time, right? If we go now to the next one, you can see something like this. I've called it PHP unit, right? Dagger call PHP unit, and it's 8.3. I'll just change it to 8.4 for speed because I haven't downloaded the image yet. But effectively now we're running test suites, right? So this is why it gets really cool. And this returns a container as well. So I will have to maybe put standard out on the end, so that it actually shows me the, shows me the stuff that I want to see.
Very cool. I mean, this should be super familiar, right? For anyone who's used Dagger and any other SDK, now you can write PHP or serve your PHP team with some confidence, I would think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it allows the dev team to actually write PHP code to run their test scripts, and you can just sort of check it out, rather than having to throw it over the wall to a DevOps team who are having to program a different language or doing some weird DevOps stuff. Anyway, that worked. There was only 2 tests because it's a skeleton application. It's an empty Laravel 12 app, so they only have 2. But there you go, running PHP unit or JUnit or NUnit or whatever language you want. It's also, I did set up tracing, but it's on another terminal. I guess it's not. I've not saved it. But tracing. One sec, I'll show that.
This is great.
We can keep going. More things like, so this is a static analyzer, PHP stan. So because PHP is a compiled language, but it compiles in runtime, and you don't get the type checks ahead of time like you would with a compiler. We do have a compiler. We use static analysis, and it does all the type checks now, rather than waiting for it to run the code in production. So PHP stan is here, and well, I've kind of hard coded the path, right? So Dagger call PHP stan standard out. We are not caching. I was going to bring that here, but you'll see it on all the other SDK examples because they're all the same code because it's a GraphQL underneath. But when we're mounting over this vendor directory, we can make a cache volume basically right here, for the vendor directory or like node modules, and so therefore it won't have to run container, npm composer install. This worked when I was switching screens. Basically, there's no errors, but it did statically analyze the code. Next, let's move forward to something like with arg. So if I pass PHP stan with arg, stan with arg equals, wait, no, that's the function name, and then the method is called, sorry, the argument is called path, right? So path. So rather than scanning like an app directory with like no code in it, I can do it to do the actual vendor directory, which has got 7,000 PHP files in there. So I had to do extra stuff by basically upping the memory limit quickly, just for now. So that's like kind of tweaking it, but the path is variable, so I can just type in vendor, which will again do the dependency installation, and then you'll see the difference. You will actually see PHP stan running. It's in progress bar mode. So here it goes. 7,003. You see it scanning? Scan at the bottom.
Yep.
So it's actually scanning 1,000 files now and stuff. So yeah, you can kind of mix and match, set up functions for your team. We have another thing, which is Dagger modules. So on the Daggerverse, you can make a pre-made module in PHP community. Things like, for like Java, we have like Gradle and other things. So it's like pre-made things, right, that you do in an ecosystem. So on the Daggerverse, we have, let's bring it up. We have modules for stuff. So PHP stan is there, but you kind of have to, where's the code? You kind of have to have PHP stan already installed in your project, or you need to install it on the fly before you use it. Whereas with modules that you don't own, they're kind of on the Daggerverse, there's like GitHub Actions. It's literally one line of code now. Analyze. So I made a module that encapsulates this. So this image here, like I would change that to like PHP stan, right? Like whatever. This is a PHP QA is like in a Docker image that has like 25 quality tooling tools inside of it, and all you do is you mount your code into it, and then run stuff. And I basically have made some modules. So yeah, the difference is you can now encapsulate, repeat, and share things between people, teams, and also companies as well. If you have an open source project and you want to standardize how people will build that, just like on GitHub Actions, basically publish your own module. So here is the PHP stand thing. So
Nice.
All I did was do Dagger install. I copied this. I typed in Dagger install, and it brought the module down. And now in my IDE, I have autocompletion. So Dag, and the module name is PHP stand. So it knows that it's actually a function, and then I can just call whatever I published on it, which is in this case it's the analyze function down here. Bam, and it wants a few things. It wants the version of PHP to use for that environment, the directory, the source code, and the path on that source code to test. And so in this case, I just said this source, which is of course my project that we mounted at the top, and then /app, because on the here I only want to scan this app directory on the left, right? And that's it. So this is like next level, right? You don't start here. You start with the kind of bare bones shell commands that you're used to, and then but that's the kind of limitation of most CI systems. When you get to Dagger, you're getting you're making your own modules and doing stuff effectively. So yeah, there's some things. Happy to show things that you can suggest, like team on the call, or if people got questions in the chat as well.
Yeah, let me check it out. I think that well, for people who are watching and they want to also continue conversations around PHP, we have a very active PHP channel in Discord, so that's a great place to join too. And Paul and his team are always in there and so willing to help answer questions and build modules like the examples here. So we really appreciate all of your time, Paul, and your team's time that you've contributed to making this happen. It's awesome.
Yeah,
couldn't have done it without the whole Dagger team as well. It's a team effort, really.
Yeah, you got to meet up with some of the Dagger team last night, so it's great. It's great to see everyone meet up in the wild. It's so fun. So, but yeah, is there? So, Paul, if they want to get started, then best place joining the Discord. Any other tips for PHP fans watching this before they get started?
Yeah, we have go to the Dagger website and click Quick Start. There is installations, steps on how to install Dagger. Definitely go to the Discord, because if people are stuck, the PHP and the Java SDKs are fairly recent additions to the existing SDKs that were there for some time, like Golang and TypeScript and stuff. So there's still docs being added to across the site for the PHP samples and of course the Java samples. So if you're doing anything and you don't quite see, it's not there, the tab is not there or whatever, that's exactly why you should be in a Discord, because you can just say, hey, what's the code? And if we've not added it to the docs already, we could just give you the code on real time and make a point of actually adding it if we don't know it's there, right? Because there's a lot of pages already on the site and we're adding the examples.
100%. Yeah, and to that point too, I'm also we like with the PHP one, to launch that as a community SDK, everybody rallied to make sure there was a core set of docs available. But yeah, we do have the aspiration to fill them all in for PHP, for Java, for any of the SDKs. So I'm going to make sure that there's public issues for all the docs that need to be filled in still. So then we can all coordinate on doing that, and it could be a great first issue if you're coming in and maybe you have skills in Java or PHP, and you're getting newly acquainted to Dagger. That could be a great first issue, is working on one of those docs issues, and we really appreciate it as well.
Absolutely.